Evening, we'll be calling the meeting to order at 6:58 p.m. The November 16th, 2023 Board of Directors meeting. Thanks everyone for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it. First thing we want to do is the board acknowledge the land acknowledgement statement and the anti-racism statement. We'll have a roll call tonight. Looks like Sonia's excused tonight, is that correct? And we have Stuart is he's online with us. And it looks like
Yeah, speak into it.
you can't hear. Looks like everybody else is here, correct? Thank you. Okay, item number 1, the adoption of tonight's agenda. Can I get a motion? Good job.
So moved.
Give it a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. Okay, item number 2 is announcements. Do we have any announcements tonight? Okay, hearing none. Move on to item number 3, it's property owner comments. And tonight we have how could you say your name? I'm Nancy.
Nancy Elliott, 4 Sandalwood Circle, and part 2 of the lake color run and the phosphorus. Phosphorus feeds algae in Lake Whatcom. A little bit of phosphorus feeds a little bit of algae, and a lot of phosphorus feeds a lot of algae. More phosphorus in the lake leads to more algae, which leads to declining water quality. And that is why the state wants to limit the amount of phosphorus entering Lake Whatcom. The state's imposed phosphorus limit is what forced the county and city to adopt a $100 million 50-year phosphorus reduction program for the watershed. And a lot of our tax money goes to keeping phosphorus out of Lake Whatcom. Decided to have a color party at Marina Park, and that is where some participants throw colored powder on other participants and onto the ground. That powder contained phosphorus. The powder was cornstarch, and cornstarch contains phosphorus. As a one-time event, phosphorus contribution from the color one was small but real. If runs are repeated and more people have their own run parties, more phosphorus will be available to feed more algae. So next summer, when you are visiting Marina Park, Lake Shore, and you run into algae, remember the color run, the phosphorus, and the consequences for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Any other public comments tonight?
Me and my pig farm. Well, first off, congratulations.
Name and property address, sir?
Yeah, you gotta keep your name.
Rita Waterman and 15107.
And you have 3 minutes, by the way.
I think I can do this pretty quick. I don't know how it started. I don't know when it started. I know I encountered it when I first arrived, but Sudden Valley has been a social civil war since everyone can remember. And I think this board has an opportunity in front of it. I know you're gonna do all the good governance things, you're gonna have committees and volunteerism. That's all good, that's governance. But the leadership part, I'm hoping you might take an action to reach out. And let's see if we can put the Civil War in Sudden Valley to bed. It's been here long enough. We are a joke amongst HOAs throughout the state. People watch what we do. It's not nice to hear, but we're adults. I think it can happen. I'm gonna ask the board, you maybe put a little effort into this year. Let's see if we can take on the Civil War. And I owe you an apology. You and I talked 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks ago, whatever it was. And there was a post that I said, you asked me about it. It was about stalking. No, you're not. And I apologize for having said that. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other property owner comments tonight? You got it.
Hi, I'm Patrick Robinson, A3, Valley Crest Way. And once again, I'd like to say congratulations to all of you, each one, every one of you. I think you're going to set precedents and start something totally different that this board has ever had before. See a community that's going to be together, work together for the better and good of the community. And that's about it. It's a wonderful thing. It's really good. Way to go. Congratulations.
Thank you. Any other property owner comments tonight? Okay, hearing none. Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to item number 4, the certification of the 2023 election. I'll hand it over to Rob Gibbs. Entity Chair.
Thank you. I think everyone's received into the board packet, the certification of the election for our 2023 AGM. We have the summary, and I don't know, you guys want me to go, you guys have all had a chance to look at this. Do you want me to go through it all, or what level would you like? Just, I guess what I would say is there were 3,121 ballots mailed, 1,025 ballots were counted, and it was comprised of US ballots, Canadian ballots, ballots that were dropped off in our Sun Valley ballot box, and there were 42 of them that were voted on the day of the AGM. There were 51 ballots not counted. Most of them were. I was kind of sad to see this. There were 32 ballots that were returned as undeliverable. Perhaps there's a way we could try to reach out and find out what those addresses are going into next year. There were some that were secrecy only. They lacked the pink identifying envelope. So with those, they were unable to determine who was voting. With that, for board of directors, Josh Bowens received 563 votes for a 3-year term. Pete McLean received 548 votes for a 3-year term. Lori Robinson received 525 votes for a 3-year term. Then for ACC, Joe Jean Koss and Patrick Zwolinski, both were elected for 3-year terms. I believe there's some open seats on that committee, and I was elected to NAE. And then with the advisory votes, there were a possible 4-6 project, also for the Marina wet slip docks, and the budget was approved. So with that, there in the In the agenda packet, there's the gold seal document that we received from ULAC. And the summary that Gail Carrillo created. Is a summary of all of that. There's also a statement from Roadrunner mail that ULAC uses in terms of the ballots with which they mailed and some expenditures in regard to that. I did talk to UNILAC during the AGM briefly and asked them specifically about the process where some of our Canadian residents didn't receive their ballots, and what they told me was that in the future we were going to contract with them that their mail courier was willing to go take those Canadian ballots across the border and mail them in Canada itself, and that should help the process. Unfortunately, I think there was a couple of Canadian holidays or something that may have led to that. So with that, the entity committee has approved to certify the election, and I would move that the 2023 AGM election be certified.
All right, Rob, thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah, AJ?
On the summary card, it says there's 13 Canadian Post mail and ballots, 125 that were counted. In the voting issues, it said we retrieved 14 ballots from Canada that were counted.
One of those was a duplicate. We had already received in the US mail the ballot that they had mailed previously, and so the 14 duplicate was removed.
Any other questions?
You're Joanne.
I'm sorry, Rob, what was that?
No, I think Joanne.
I'd like to thank Joanne and Nancy. I know they had a lot to do with retrieving Canadian ballots. I understand you guys drove up there.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Wow.
Now I've got a question.
Okay, on to item number 5 is oh, I'm sorry, Lindsay, you have a question?
So I have a question. AJ brought it up that if indeed we had a duplicate Canadian ballot, is that registered in the 2 ballots that were in the ballot?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I need to know. So then we can, and we should make a motion to accept the certification.
Yeah, I had placed that motion.
Oh, you did, I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Can we get a second on that motion?
Second,
All in favor? All opposed? All right, that's unanimous.
I'm abstaining.
Oh, you are abstaining, thank you, I could have asked Joshua, thank you. We have one abstaining from Joshua. Okay, on to item number 5, financial report, and we'll turn that over to Joel. For August financials.
I just need to take a look at the questions.
Okay, sorry about that. So I'm going to be going over the August financial statements. And of course, we're just a little bit behind our financial statements, so I'll be able to separate it on the tax return and audit. But I'll look to. Well, I'll look to do the September statements and get these posted to the website by the end of the month, and that'll pull us back on track. But anyway, so I'm doing August 2023 financial statements, as you see. And of course, I would start out with a balance sheet. There's really only one notable improvement on this balance sheet in terms of like real changes, from one month to the next, and that would be under these mitigation. Basically, the assignment savings has gone up, as you can see, and this is largely related to culvert 315 work. About 87,000 of this is literally just it's a mitigation in lieu of the bonds, and that could pretty much, I think, probably be released possibly right now, but we'll get that before the end of the year. So the good thing with that is literally 88,000 will have come up back, and then it literally comes down to maybe two different $5,000 assignment statements. So that'll be like that. We're going to the next page. Really the heart of the matter. The income statement, we'll just focus on, since we're into August, we'll just focus on year-to-date numbers. But you can see that. Okay, so the good thing is our operating net income is $641,526 through the end of August. So we're about $378,000 better than budget for net income wise. So it's pretty close to, I believe, what I said. I was thinking that we would probably get to the end of August last time. Now, in terms of our collection rate, so we're budgeted for 95% collection rate. And so what we have at the end of August, you'll see, actually at the very top, you can see it's 97.6% of the collection rate of August, which is great. Now, in terms of comparative figures, so last year we were at 97.3%, and last year was a really great year for us as well, so we're actually tracking a little better than we were even last year at this time. And at the end of 2022, so we finished out the year at So we finished out the year at 97.6% at the end of 2022. So we're tracking. So if we're at 97.6% already, well, bottom line is we're doing better than last year. And last year was a great year for us. And I said it before, but I'll say it again in terms of what does that mean collection rate wise when we're over the collection rate. So basically what that means is we budgeted for a 95% collection. So for every 1%, we're above that 95% at year end. Ops would take in about another 23,596. CERT would take in about 13,500, approximately, a little bit higher. Roads would take in close to $14,000 extra, and that's per 1% that we're over that 95%. So that's why having a better collection rate is obviously you can see better for the bottom line. Now I've already calculated the September collection rate. And so, okay, so we're at 97.6% right now. September, we went to 97.5%. We're still hovering right around that range. September 2022, we were 97.2%. Keep in mind, we finished up in 2022 at 97.6%. So we're doing well. Collection wise, bottom line for that. Now, another number that I can talk about as well is I always do mention expense to revenue ratio, and basically all that is. It's just expense divided by revenue, but it's a ratio. It just means that basically for every $1 of revenues, how much would we have in expenses? So if I better, lower ratio is better. So if I said it's 50% expense to revenue ratio, that just means for every dollar we took down, we had 50 cents of expenditure. So you can think about it like that. So obviously, whenever our net income, whenever we're above what we're budgeted to be, or, and whenever we're in positive territory, then that expense to revenue ratio will fall. And actually, what we budget for in our budget is literally 100% expense to revenue ratio, since we budget total revenues and total expenditures. So obviously, a lower number is better. So July 2023, last month, it was 77.9%, which just means, like I said, for every $1 revenue, we had 77.9 cents of expenditures. August, this month, 2023, it's 79.5%. So it ticked up a little, just because, and this is, like I said, just a factor of where we are in terms of what that operating profit. August of 2022 is 89.1%. So, and that's obviously because our operating income is higher than it was last month. So the end of August 2022 is 323,311. Obviously, as you can see, it's 641,526. So better than budget by real close to 378,000. Last year we were better than budget at that time by 36,575. So we're doing well through August. And actually, I just went ahead and just calculated, just a quick projection of where I think we could be at the end of September. So at the end of September, it looks like we'll be around $591,000 operating income. Now, keep in mind, really, one big number that is not in the financial statements yet is the ACT consultant, which is basically it's Will Carter. He was a new job board as of 2021 or so. But so he hasn't given us any of his invoicing yet. But at the end of 2022, you know, worst case scenario, we had about $60,000 in total invoicing for 2022. So if you took the 591,000, just took 60 out of that, would still be around 531,000. So operating income. So we're in really good territory that way. Now this next page, which is the, and I obviously I'll talk about this every month, but this is a really handy sheet. This solving reserve cash balance activity sheet. But basically, this is just, we'll just go down the line and we'll just look at SIR first column, but it's just basically starting out 2022 cash at 3,236,221 and go right back to the 2022 balance. And that's the number. And then investment income, interest. There's that $5,000 in mitigation coming out of SIR, and then there's the rest of it coming out of roads for over 315. Like I said, then you'll see. Then I got moved over here to this mitigation side of the savings fund right here, and then as soon as it's released, it'll transfer right back to these funds. But and then we have this. The outlook here's our basically our budgeted revenue in terms of 95% collection rate, 120,552. We have budgeted to come back in from SIR through capital dues, SIR loan payments right here, 101,013. Then this is a big number. This obligated expenses holding state. You can see it's almost 856,000, almost like around 56,000. And this is so. This is all of the expenditures right now that the board has approved. That's basically it. So all the projects that the board has approved. This is the amount, the amount that's been budgeted that we have not cut checks on yet. So we just basically assume as though the whole projects would be paid for, and all that money is spoken for. So that's what that is. And then we have this board recommended carryover balance 600,000. This is just an amount that we don't want to fall below. And this gives us the net usable cash at the end of the year 2023, 2.4 million. Then obviously this 3,007,300 that would tie right back to the 2023 balance sheet. But so basically, the bottom line for these columns is these are the numbers that you're really looking at in terms of your budgeting future capital expenditures. How much do you still have to work with? So we have 2.4 million SIR. Last year at the end of August, we had 2.6 million, so we're pretty close to where we were last year. And like I said, this is just a function of all the dues coming in, investment income, and then basically the capital expenditures going out, certain units. So you can see for roads, 1.4 million, usable cash at the end of 2023. Last year we had 1.47 million, so we're pretty close to where we were with roads previous year, year over year. Density reduction obviously hasn't changed, we're talking about. Mailbox is 100, almost 126,000. This has gone up, it's 101,000 last year, and this is a good to look at because we haven't had any capital expenditures budgeted for or approved by the board to spend on mailboxes. So we would expect this number to keep going up until we start having capital expenditures. And then the other big column, the UDR column that you'll hear about, undesignated reserve. And you know, in terms of like what this column really is basically just put her in real fast nutshell. This is like an example. This is where the operating dues from a previous year go when we collect it. So if someone has not yet paid their dues from 2022 or previous year, and then they pay it this year and bring their account current, and obviously any 2023 dues goes to regular operations. Then any 2022 dues or prior, only the operating portion of those dues goes into this UDR account. And then of course this requires board approval to spend on this, just like sewer or roads or mailboxes would require as well. So these next couple pages, this first page is just, this is only within the month of August. We're going to skip to the next page, this is the exact same thing, but we're looking at year to date, January through August 2023. Basically, this is the income statement again, but now you're looking at the income statement broken down on a departmental basis. So I went right back up here again to is that 641,526 operating net income overall for the whole association. And if I go to this departmental sheet, year to date, there it is right there, 641,526. But then this just shows you the net income loss breakdown by department of what contributed to coming up with that number. And then below this is just UDR spending. But now the one column with the row, I should say, that I always call out, which is our biggest revenue center, revenue source, the golf department. The golf is doing really well. Golf did really well last year, especially in the year before that. But this year it's even doing better than it has even in the previous year before that. Last year was a great year for golf. You can see actual revenue for golf, 1,159,065. So I'm looking at this highlighted in blue row right here. So the previous year at the end of August 2022 was 900 and other grounds. So it was 936,000 is what it was. So we're already about 224,000 higher than budgeted to the good revenue-wise for golf, which is great. And then you'll have the actual salary benefits right here, and then the all other expenses right here. These two amounts add up to 784,270 total expenditures. Last year, golf had $646,630 total expenditures. So expenditures are up 138,000. However, the revenue is up to 124,000. So the bottom line is for golf. The net income is 375,398 operating net income. Last year was 289,121. So golf is up. Bottom line operating net income for golf 86,277. So golf had a great year last year. It would be better this year, which is great for golf. So they're better than budgeted net income wise, 244,000. Last year they were better than budget at the end of August 2022 by about 105,000. So golf is doing well. But I would say in terms of like those would be the overall highlights, the financial statements. If anyone has any questions about these.
So one of the things I wanted to confirm, if I look at the income statement, right next to the 97.6%, there's $43,031. That is the excess that we have collected by collecting over the 95%.
That's right.
Year to date.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. My other question is, I noticed in operations, there's no salary benefit at all for ACC and security for the whole year. I know we have the gentleman that does that work, but I thought the ACC coordinator was also paid out of that account. No?
Actually, that's our line item that you're talking about in the budget, that's for the environmental. Planner, if you remember George, so that's what we have budgeted for that position. That position is just gone until. So Joel Carter basically picks up that slack.
Yeah. So, Linda, to clarify, the ACC coordinator position was upgraded to an environmental planner, which incorporated the duties of the building inspector with also helping to manage the agendas for the ACC committee and do other work out in the field. And ideally, once processes were implemented, that person would also then be available to write grants so that we could potentially get federal and state money for improvements. So it's been very difficult to find someone with the right set of credentials. We continue to advertise and interview as candidates present, but we have not been able to fill that position, as Joel indicated. In the administration office, we have 2 administrative specialists. And currently, one of those is spending 80% of her time managing the incoming exterior alteration requests and construction requests and supporting the ACC committee. So when we find an environmental planner, there'll still be clerical support for that person, but many of the management duties would go to the environmental planner, and that's one of the reasons that admin is behind, because we've been supporting that ACC role.
Yeah, I always thought the coordinators, you know, that what she was paid, she did, was paid, came out of that account. But I think Joel said earlier that we've received no invoices, so are we gonna see a huge dump in there when he finally sends his invoices to be paid?
So I'm not gonna follow his invoice from last year, which I'm sure probably will. You would expect to see about 60,000 going to that ACC consultant line item.
Isn't that unusual for someone to wait so long to invoice us?
That's his pattern. I bug him about it periodically.
Actually, to be fair, we had a bunch on going to at the end of the year for invoice.
Okay, so here it comes, folks. So a couple meetings ago, I asked about the Park Recs and Trails Special Assessment. And the fact that the bylaws say that if there is an excess of that account at the time it ends, which was the end of May, that money at the discretion of the board is either returned to the membership or is put as a credit toward future assessment. And I pointed out that if I look at the year 2018, which was a half year, through 2023, which was a half year, there's $155,011 not accounted for. The prior treasurer spoke with me and said, no, that's all been spent. What I'd like to do is give this information that I have to the current treasurer, have her speak about it, and see if we can resolve this, because it's each separate year that money was rolled into cash on hand. It was never carried forward.
It's there to answer this question. So basically put it in a quick nutshell. So like on our balance sheet, you can't really see it on this balance sheet, but on the internal balance sheet, we actually track like the equity, so to speak, at the end of every single year. The excess of revenues, silver expenses for the rec park schools. So at the end of 2022 was sitting for some units from memory, but it's going to be really close. It's approximately like 120-some thousand or so. You can think about it as equity, sitting there for the rec special assessment. Now, in terms of, so we collected the rec special assessment through the end of May of this year. So, and of course, now the bylaw you're referring to, it does say that at the conclusion of the project, the end of the project. So basically, what we're doing with the rec special assessment in terms of like what the rec department is doing and like going back to that initial to the petition signature, when I talked about the rec special assessment, we talked about how members would not be charged an additional fee and so on and so forth, so we have not, since we haven't changed those parameters whatsoever, we're essentially like carrying on to the rest of the year. You know, by abiding by that, so meaning since the project is still in force, so to speak. Like we would expect that equity to just be eaten up. Meaning like we haven't changed what the rec special assessment said would be done.
But I'm saying, can it determine the dates of when it started and when it ended? And so in May, that's when it should end. You know, I don't know if this is the proper place to take the whole conversation. I'd like to speak with the new treasurer, show her what I have. Show her all the net sheets for each year in December, what the net was for the special assessment, because it's on there. And I think we need to look at that really hard, because I know what it says, and I'd hate to see the money spent or just left in cash on hand. If indeed we need to decide what we're gonna do. Are we gonna give every member any money back? Probably not, but we certainly can give them a credit for next year's dues.
Well, I mean, like for example, I guess psychologically, this we had a special assessment for the ice bar, you know, but we have this, I'll just make it up. We have this $10 special assessment for the ice bar, we're collecting $1 million about right now for the ice bar. And then the special assessment is collected for 5 years, but then the ice bar isn't built until the year 6, you know, so to speak. Meaning, so in that case, the project itself would be the ice barn. So it wouldn't be, if we stop the special assessment, we stop collecting it because we collect it through year X, whatever, but the money that was collected, since we haven't actually worked on the barn yet, we wouldn't just return the money, so to speak, you know what I mean, in terms of like, with the rec special assessment, we collected special assessment through May of this year. Of course, you know, like now we have the rest of the year in terms of how the rec department is being operating pools and so on and so forth, you know, through summertime. So like in terms of we haven't changed anything in terms of billing the members an extra amount to use any portion of the rec center or whatever. So we're still abiding by the parameters of the rec special assessment petition. So meaning the project would still be in force for the year in terms of the funds are still being used on.
Yeah, simply stated, we're saying that we stopped collecting money, but the project is ongoing. The project was to relieve members of the necessity of paying for the use of amenities like the fitness center or the pool. So that is the project. The project continues, although the collection of funds has ceased. And it's actually a sign of good management that we have enough money to continue offering those amenities at no cost, even though we stopped collecting the funds. So that has been our approach to it. I'm not saying that it can't be discussed further. I'm just saying that that is our working approach.
I'd like to say, I believe all of we people who have developed lots in the valley received an increase in our actual dues when the assessment was over. Our dues didn't stay at that same amount. We received an increase then, and I'm assuming that amount of money is the money that's being used now to fund the rec center and stuff, because otherwise the vacant lot owners receive no increase, and we should have received no increase either if you're using the assessment going forward. That's my point. And I'll give my information to Lori, and we can talk and you can see where you guys come from, because if there wasn't that increase to the developed lot owners, then I could see that, yeah, you're spending that money, but we've been charged that extra money ever since beginning in, would it be June, Here, have that. Here comes the next thing, folks, the elephant in the room.
I have a quick question too, for you. So then, this money that's left over, right, that you're using to offset the use of the pool fees and stuff like that, when that money runs out, then are we assume that we're gonna have to ask the money from the community then?
No, not for this year or for 20, we didn't budget that as well for 2024. So the rest, so everything will run just like it's right now through 2024.
Okay.
So it would really only come out again for 2025.
Okay, but it is gonna come out, that's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Probably.
Okay, thank you. Any additional questions?
Me, you're right. What?
When you say come up, you're talking about the discussion, right? Or are you talking about dues?
Well, I think, yeah, I think because you're trying to keep it right.
Yeah, dues, yeah.
Yeah, so the 2024 due structure is all set and
Right.
what the money's going for the budget, so we don't have anything. Like, we don't have anything in the works whatsoever for a new fee for the right special assessment.
Okay, I just wanted to
Sorry, not for the
clarify,
next
because the way that sounded like, okay, we're looking at an increase already, just.
Oh, no, actually, what I was saying is when that money runs out, because they're using that money now to offset. What it sounds like we need to charge the community, but what happens when that money runs out? It's not like we would have to charge them at some point. I just didn't know how long that was gonna last. If I'm understanding correctly.
There's no indication that we would need to start charging residents.
Yeah, that's what I was.
8% inflation or, craziness, we can't see 2 years into the future, but right now. We prepared a budget for next year that did not include a rec special assessment, included a modest increase to dues, and there are no fees planned to be charged.
For 2020.
2024 for the use of those popular amenities.
Yeah, fair.
Sorry, I hear things weird and I just want to make sure that I clarify for other people who have minds like mine, so.
I appreciate it. Any additional questions? Oh, yes, Linda?
I'm not done yet. So I went and looked at the additional pages that get posted, and I noticed that our events budget at the end of August is $11,350.08 over. I noticed that we added some concessions income, tickets income, and vendor space rentals, revenue. I'm assuming that all has to do with the 50th anniversary.
So.
Except the resolution that the board approved states that, any additional 50th anniversary events funding beyond the current 2023 events budget must be approved by the general manager and finance director and to the board for approval. All events budgets are administered by the SVCA's general manager and finance director. I don't remember ever voting on any additional funds that went beyond the budget for that. And I also have a question about the raffle. Was that a permitted raffle or an unpermitted raffle?
I called and got the scoop on that, so no. Awesome. That was God warning me not to get out of line. So as a nonprofit, we are allowed to hold an unpermitted raffle if we do not collect more than $5,000 in tickets, and we did not do that. So we're within the parameters.
And that's fine, except usually an HOA is not considered a charity of sorts. And usually the proceeds have to be used towards your organizational stated purpose. If it just sits in the general income account, it could pay for toilet paper in the bathrooms. And I worry about some of our accounting for this, that we maybe should have gone to a little bit of effort to take a look at the raffles and stuff. Because it also says that, here, ask this question, we can tell me who did that. Let's see, there's the rules of play. There's a time where if you have, and I'm not sure exactly where it is in here, you have to notify the authorities when you're going to have your drawing. I've been looking, it's just.
I suggest we take this offline.
Okay.
I spoke to the appropriate officials and got the rules, and we complied with those rules. I absolutely welcome scrutiny and discussion. It's just, I'm not prepared to have that right now.
Okay, that's fine. I just, once again, I'm wondering why none of the overages considerable were ever brought to the board, because that was part of the resolution. You know, we're planning on having a big event in December here with absolutely no money.
I'm not planning to have a large event, I'm planning to have a small event in December.
By the way, we are $600,000 over budget for the good as well, so meaning like, if we had an event in the house, we wouldn't. So it's,
The point is, we made a resolution of the board to have a committee formed. There were rules the committee was supposed to operate under. It didn't. And we're over budget.
All right, thank you, Linda. Any additional questions? All right, hearing none, we'll move on. To item number 6, director appointments. I think Joanne, you're gonna take this.
There are 3 committees of the board that need to have chairs and second directors appointed. First of those committees is the Long Range Planning Committee. We'll also be looking to nominate chairs and second directors for document review. Finance Committee is defined as being chaired by the treasurer, who we already have, so we just need to appoint a second director for the Finance Committee.
Okay, can we get nominations? Let's start first. We'll go ahead and state the finance since we're already on that.
I nominate Stu.
Okay, did point out nominations, so are there any additional nominations or take a vote on Stu? All in favor of Stu? And all opposed? I'm sorry?
So you don't need a vote if there's only one person.
It's kind of by acclamation if there's only one nominee.
Thank you, AJ.
Do you have any online applications for finance?
I will share the volunteers for the committees with the chairs once they're named, so I have them here.
Okay, thank you.
So, yeah, it's a 2-step process. This time we'll nominate the chairs and the second directors. They will then have the opportunity to look at the applications and bring back the recommendations at the next meeting. And then the board will vote to approve those.
Thank you.
Okay, document review committee. Any nominations for document review committee chair?
I nominate Linda Bradley.
Nomination we have, so I guess, yeah, we Linda. Any additional nominations?
I need a second.
No, do you?
I do, I need a second director, and
Oh.
timing, I'll return the paper.
There we have a nomination of timing. That's it. Any additional? All right, so we have Linda Bradley as chair and timing. Okay, long range planning committee. Any nominations for chair? Sam? Nominate AJ. Any additional nominations?
I nominate Sam Shahan for a second for long range planning.
Sam Shan? Any additional? All right, so let's confirm AJ is chair and Sam Shan. Okay, that takes care of 6A. And keep in mind, we're always looking for committee members, so additional members is greatly appreciated. Under 6B, union negotiation representatives. I would like to nominate Sam Sheehan. And Sonia, so I'd like them to stay on it along with Linda, but I don't know how we would handle Sonia since she's not here tonight. Anybody have any ideas on that?
I think that's just fine.
Well, as we already have an alternate,
Yeah, with Linda.
I think, we're fine just voting to maintain those.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for, would like to maintain. Any opposed? We good? Okay, we have Sam here, Sonia, and Linda, the alternate, so basically stay the same as it was. Okay, 6C. On the resolution designating the signing authority, and I'm gonna actually have, you explain this or Joel explain, yeah, we're not Joel explain this. I'm not sure we did this last year. No. Oh, yeah.
And so this is basically, this is just like a general signing authority. Now, the reason why we're doing this is because throughout the year, every once in a while, I'll have a situation where whether it's a bank or a title company or something like that, they'll ask, okay, so what board member's gonna sign this? I'll say, I'll give, here's the board members that'll sign, and then the obviously couple officers, and then they'll say, well, so it's your signing resolution. Then I'll say, it's right here, here are the bylaws. You see, it's right here in the bylaws. Who can sign? Here are the minutes for who's appointed for these officers. So these are people who will sign. And then they'll say, well, now let me see the resolution. And I'll say, look, it's right in the bylaws. And I'll repeat it. And they'll, well, I'd like to see the resolution. Well, here's the bylaws. Like I said, you 20 minutes. And then every single time I've done this, they relent and okay, fine, we'll do it this one time. The next time they want resolutions, So basically, this is why this is coming about. This is just a general kind of all-purpose resolution. Just so throughout the year, once in a while, when someone says, who's going to sign this? What officer will sign it? Timing or keep or sign. Okay, sign the resolution. Okay, here it is. And then it'll just speed up the process, basically. That's basically the long and short of why this is coming out. And then, I figured with this resolution, the way that it's kind of broadly written, that, like, for example, next November, whoever the next officers are, whether they stay the same, when they change, then we just, once the officers are trying to bring this up again, swap the names out, that re-sign it.
Yeah, a community member wrote to the board after the agenda was posted and this resolution was part of the supporting materials and noted that it was potentially safer to name an office instead of an individual. While that is certainly true, naming officers does not satisfy the requirement of the financial institutions that Joel works with. And so this resolution is specifically aimed at satisfying the requirements of those institutions. So it's incumbent on us as staff, if there is a change in the executive team, if someone resigns or is replaced, or when our elections happen, we would need to have a new resolution immediately. And it's been written so that every time we pass this sort of resolution, it revokes all previously approved signers. And then this document can just be used in a blanket way to accompany managed applications and other things that we do with various financial institutions throughout the year. So I just wanted to acknowledge that comment and explain that, yes, that's absolutely true. And sadly, it's not good enough for the places we deal with.
Thank you, Joel and Joanne. Any questions?
Do we need to make a motion?
That's yeah. Gonna make a motion, I need to get a motion. To approve.
Move to approve the resolution.
Second. All in favor? Thank you, that's unanimous. Okay, on to item number 7, Architecture Control Committee member appointments. Daniel, you have some new members?
We have Wayne Lee, investigate. Wayne Lee. Who is currently, here with us and who else we get. I confirmed that, Wayne Lee is in good standing.
Need a ratification for Wayne Lee to join the Architecture Control Committee.
So
Second? Second. Thank you, Josh. All in favor? All right, that's unanimous. By the way, welcome, Daniel. Appreciate you hearing that. Okay, item number 8, new business. Capital request, we'll let Joanne handle this.
The purpose of this is to request funding for enhancements to ditches, culverts, and roads that support improved drainage throughout Sudden Valley. 2023 capital budget for roads includes $85,000 for fast response for unforeseen drainage issues. It is requested that these funds become available to pay for work addressing drainage issues that have developed after the October 16th heavy rain event and additional drainage issues that come up as the wet weather season continues. Note, the 2024 budget also includes $88,400 for fast response for unforeseen drainage issues that will be available in 2024. This is a recurring item in the capital roads budget. So there was funding in 2022 that was approved by the board in 2022. And that funding continued into 2023 because it was not all spent in 2022. And that's why it's November and we're just requesting the money that was set aside in the 2023 budget. On October 16th, SVCA received over an inch of rain in a 1-hour period. The large amount of water that was deposited by the storm overwhelmed some components of our stormwater drainage system. These problem areas were identified by Mike Brock, our maintenance and facilities manager, and Tyler Andrews, project manager, after inspecting sites reported by residents or known to be problematic from previous storms. There is currently an active list of about 40 locations that need some level of work to function correctly. It is expected that additional locations will be identified this fall as future rain events take place. And I included as part of the materials supporting this request, the ongoing list of locations, and each of those locations has a description of the work that's required next to it. Considering the drainage improvements that were completed earlier this year, it's not surprising that we're identifying new problems. The work that was completed to expose and clean all culverts has resulted in significant changes to the movement of stormwater throughout the association. Remember that during that culvert evaluation process, 59 additional culverts were found that had not been previously mapped in the 2014 drainage plan, and an additional 4 culverts, which we've now increased to 7 culverts because we found 3 more, were found after this recent rain event. Some of these old culverts were buried by more than 3 feet. This demonstrates that as SVCA works to restore the overall drainage system to how it was originally designed, the water is going to flow very differently than it has previously. We do not expect that the currently planned drainage work will require all of the $85,000 that was budgeted for 2023. The needed repairs will be completed by both maintenance staff and Stremler Gravel and Community Services operating under their existing time and materials contracts. As a reminder to the board, Stremler is on site working on replacing the 2023 culverts under Capital Code 9923.6. Stremler will only be asked to assist in this work when the task requires equipment and or experience that is beyond our capabilities. I'd like to point out that Mike Brock and Tyler Andrews have been managing the drainage, fast response drainage money since Mike was here. And so their good management is why we didn't have to request it earlier in the year. So like I said, we don't expect it to spend all of that 85, but to have it on hand and ready and available so that we can react quickly is the precise point of having that item in our capital budgets. So I propose that the board authorize the allocation of $85,000 from roads for the 2023 fast response for unforeseen drainage issues project. The funds will be monitored by SVCA's maintenance manager, that's Mike, who's responsible for the overall project. And he will determine whether outsourcing is needed. If SVA is unable to complete a repair, the maintenance manager will coordinate with Stremler Gravel, PNW Services, which is the company of our consultant Tyler Andrews, or WRS to complete the work required. Each of these companies have existing contracts that are set up as time and materials and are currently working throughout SVCA on other projects. Just as a side note, that's good for us because they don't charge us for mobilization, which can be a significant component of the budget. Indeed.
Any questions? Linda?
So I know how much was left at the end of 2022 in that account, which wasn't very much. But are we going to use that money first, or we used that money already? And we'll open a new account that will just definitely say 2023. We're not gonna add it together.
Anticipating your question, Linda, I brought you GL. For that account.
See, all I got is my little. Thank you.
So yeah, it'll be a new code.
Thank you, that's my only question.
I mean,
The only question I have is we have that link with the Survey Monkey that people could report, and it's not working anymore, do you know?
yeah,
Yeah,
sorry.
that's-
Inside. Yeah, it was a survey at the moment. It wasn't meant to be an ongoing thing, but I can tell you that it was an awesome vehicle for us to quickly collect a lot of information. And it was primarily people reporting water moving in different places and potentially damaging things. That it was their reports that got us to the problems faster. There were some areas where we were able to already divert Stremler and do some things to prevent damage. In several cases, water had been redirected and was flowing into people's garages and things. And so we were able during the immediate aftermath of that storm to make changes and improvements that were able to stop that. So it was great. And I know we got a lot of positive feedback. People were really happy. We immediately went out. Now, on the flip side of that, as we're digging 3-foot ditches in places where they haven't been for 50 years, people aren't always thrilled that there's a giant ditch in front of their property. Over the years, they've landscaped, gardened. And so we also have feedback from residents who are very unhappy with us for destroying their front yards. Every time that happens, I need to explain that that's our right of way. Drainage is important, not just for you, but for the people above and below you. And sometimes they accept that, but sometimes they don't. So anticipate that you will continue to receive complaints when we unearth culverts and restore ditches. And they've been flat, and now there's a 3-foot hole in front of their house or in front of their property, so they don't appreciate that. But Tammy, were you saying you would like that to be a feature?
Well, I'm just wondering if maybe just doing a venture, and if it's a helpful thing. Obviously, the majority of the complaints have come in, but there might be some more. That's worth leaving on. Seems like a really good one.
Okay, yeah, I can definitely look at that to report a drainage issue. Thanks.
Any additional questions? All right, hearing none. We have a proposal on the table to authorize the allocation of 85,000 from roads for the 2023 fast response drainage issues. Can I get a motion?
Move to approve.
Second. Is that Josh? That's me. Thank you, Josh. All in favor?
Motion is to move to approve, that's it. I think we should probably state the dollar amount and count that's coming out. In our motion. I'll make a motion that the Sun Valley Board of Directors approve the allocation of 85,000 for the roads for the 2023 fast response for unforeseen drainage issue project. Spending managed by Mike Brock, maintenance facilities manager using internal labor and resources or currently contract vendors, Sherman, Raggle, WRS, and PNW.
Second again. All in favor? Yeah, right, that's unanimous.
Just to be careful and certain about this resolution, I'm gonna go ahead and read it. And then I want to just make sure that the board knows all the words that are in here and it's in the record. Is that okay? All right. So the undersigned officers of the Sudden Valley Community Association, a Washington nonprofit corporation, hereby certify that the following resolutions have been adopted by the Board of Directors. Resolved, the board is hereby authorized and approved to authorize and empower the following individuals to make, execute, endorse, and deliver in the name of and on behalf of the corporation, but shall not be limited to any and all written instruments, agreements, documents, execution of deeds, powers of attorney, transfers, assignments, contracts, obligations, certificates, checks, drafts, promissory notes, and other instruments of whatever nature entered into by this corporation. Further resolved that the board is hereby authorized and approved to authorize and empower the following individuals as signatories on all corporation bank accounts held at all financial institutions. Further resolved that the board is hereby authorized and approved to authorize that all other signing authority resolutions are superseded by this resolution. Keith McLean, President, Tommy Vanderpool, Vice President, Lori Robinson, Treasurer, and Linda Bradley, Secretary. The second page, I'm going to ask the officers to sign when the meeting is concluded. So if you would come over and sign that, and we can get it posted and take care of the signature stuff.
Okay, on item number 9, we're moving to closed session. We'll discuss personnel vacation policy for exempt employees. We'll get a legal update on contract negotiations, lease negotiations, and compliance issues.
Motion to move into closed session.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, closed session.
Where is the closed session?
Should be down.
Multi-purpose room?
Yeah, multi-purpose room A.
I'll meet you guys.
You know?
See you later.
I guess we'll carry on. Okay.
How about Stu?
Yeah, let's get Stu back in.
Oh, Stu was back. He's there.
Yes, sir.
I'm here.
Stu. All right, we're back in open session.
Okay, the board has a motion coming out of closed session, and the motion is move that the board of directors approve the general manager and finance director be cashed out for vacation time of 160 hours each.
Good timing. All in favor? Stu,
Yep.
Okay. Minus AJ. So it's unanimous or. Yeah, majority.
Yep.
Okay. On to item number 10. Item number 10, the code of conduct. And I brought this up, Joanne and I both did. After this last election and everything that's happened, we just felt that the board should take a voluntary role into a code of conduct. Setting an example for the community to show maturity. So that we want to work together as a team and respect each other, even though we do have differences of opinion. which I value, I think we can all value differences of Kenwood time, it's us, I think, and broaden our horizons. So we put together a couple different things, and I'm gonna let Joanne go through it, because actually Joanne did all the work on it. But, like I said, guys, it's a voluntary thing, I hope you read it, you take it to heart. And we really, we talk about it and come up with an idea here, so go ahead, Joanne.
Thank you. What I gave to you directors in the packet of materials that supported the agenda is 2 examples of different codes of conduct that the board can choose to adopt, or the board could create a Frankenstein hybrid or some other format. But the idea is that a set of ground rules and shared beliefs about how the business of the board should be conducted is necessary so that we can work efficiently and have a method for resolving any grievances that might arise should there be a disagreement that isn't resolved through discussion. And so if you look at the second example called a commitment to civil behavior, I developed this based on several examples that I found online. Specifically, there was an article called Tips for Promoting Civility in Public Meetings by the Institute for Local Government. Anyway, I think that these are the basics that we want to include in any sort of discussion. First, to support the association's mission. Often in the corporate organizations, the commercial organizations that I've worked at, there is disagreement about what direction to take, what projects to fund, how to do things. And it's really important to look back at the mission and the vision statement for the corporation as sort of a touch point when you're looking to get consensus and reach agreement. And so by referring constantly to the mission and vision that have been developed for Sun Valley, that's often a good way, or it's a tool that we could use when we can't reach an agreement to understand why we're here and what we're supposed to be doing. And so that's why I think understanding what the mission is important to any code of conduct. The second tenet, I'll call it, in this commitment to civil behavior is to bring association-related concerns, issues, and conflicts to the board of directors for discussion and resolution. So should you disagree with the actions of another board member, what this tenet is saying is that you agree that you would bring it here to resolve and not take action on your own to resolve it. That it would be something that your peers here on the board of directors would help to resolve and be a party to resolving, so that you wouldn't take matters into your own hand and go off on Facebook or something else. Okay. The third tenet there is to offer and be open to alternative solutions when addressing a problem or issue. One of the concerns that was raised during the election is that some members of the board felt that when things were brought to a vote, it was already a fait accompli, that there wasn't a lot of discussion. So this third tenet says that people who have a specific idea about how something should be done, at least be willing to listen to alternatives and to discuss those with them. The fourth tenet, show respect to each other as elected representatives of the membership, both during meetings and when commenting publicly outside of the meetings. So this is actually a different way of thinking about tenet number 2, which says to resolve things within the activities of the board, to bring disagreements to the board. Obviously, here in our meetings, we show respect. We follow Robert's Rules of Order to help us organize our meetings and make sure that we're not talking over each other. But this second part of it, when commenting publicly outside of meetings, that's kind of a big thing. But one of the reasons that I feel that this is important is because this is a group of volunteers. It takes a lot of time to be on the board of directors. And throughout the association's history, there have often been few candidates who wish to volunteer to do all of this work? Well, if we keep trashing each other on Facebook, we're not gonna have any volunteers. So this is really important, not just for our own good, but for the good of the organization going forward. Because there need to be 11 people sitting at the table and making these decisions, and we soon won't have that if we don't change a little bit the way we've been operating. Article or tenet number 5, promote civility during board meetings and tolerate nothing less. This is not just about board directors talking with board directors, but also the way we interact with homeowners when we come to the meetings. And to make sure that everyone has a voice, they don't always have to agree, they do always have to be civil. And tenet number 6, to maintain the confidentiality of material that is discussed during closed sessions. And do not disclose the content or substance of confidential and privileged communications relating to association business. So that talks about board meetings specifically. So those to me are the basics. The other example that I shared is a more formal code of conduct. This was actually drawn up by Richard Davis, SVCA's lawyer, a year and a half or so ago. And it actually covers most of the same things, but it does so in a very lawyerly way. And instead of half of the page, it covers 2.5 pages. But that's, lawyers are paid by the word, so we have it. But those are 2 options for the board to consider.
Thank you, Joanne. So guys, I just want to say again, I think this is so important that we really think about this as the entire board. We all look at it individually. I prefer the first one, the commitment to civil behavior, because it's voluntary, right? And doing it in public forum, a forum like this, open, it's just accountability, right? So now, if you agree to this, we'll all be accountable. We have to watch what we're saying to each other, how we behave, leaving abruptly at meetings and whatnot, putting stuff on Facebook that we shouldn't be doing. We have to learn how to talk together, right? We're all here representing the community, not my own idea or Doc's idea or Dan's idea, or here's the whole community. So I'm just hoping that we can all agree to do something like this. No comments, questions? Please, Josh.
I totally support the commitment to civil behavior. I do feel like there should be some items added to it. I'm not in favor of this original code of conduct. This was brought to us when I first joined the board. I really don't have any problem working with anyone on any side of the coin. So, I feel okay talking about this, but I wouldn't support the first one, and I definitely wouldn't sign it. But I do think that the commitment to civil behavior is a really good start, and I think that it should be added to. And I'm not sure what happened to AJ, but I do think that this should be a conversation with AJ and some new president. And if we're talking about doing this for the community, it would be good to have their input as well as all the board directors.
Thank you, Josh. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Good, Stu.
Oh, yeah, I thought it was muted, but I'm not. No, I agree with both Keith and Josh. This is something that's actually very important. Code of conduct for board members is extremely important. You have to behave civil to the other board directors, to the community members. One thing that I'll mention that actually has just always really bothered me for some reason, and this has been going on since we moved to Sun Valley a few years ago. For some reason, board directors think they have the right to behave differently if they're sitting at the table versus walking 10 feet across the room and standing in front of a microphone as a property owner. I mean, sure, we're all property owners, we have concerns, but you have to be civil in both places. 20 feet across the room does not change the fact that you're a board director. You are a board director and you are a property owner, and you need to behave in a civil manner regardless. That's just the main comment that I'd like to make.
Thank you, Sue. Anyone else? Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, I agree with being civil. I would also like to stress that we are all here of our own time. And my taking your time because I am whatever stretching things out for whatever that may be, and if I'm not being nice about it, it's I'm inflicting a loss of time to people's family here, which shows that I'm giving a lack of respect to my fellow board members and for the audience that shows up at times. And so quite often I've seen things going on that actually we have spent time arguing about things and being disrespectful right in the room and eating up our evening by extra hours after hours. And that respect is something that does kind of eat at me a little bit, because I do not want to be down longer than necessary. I like these meetings, and most times I have a good time, and it doesn't bother me, but I know other people want to get home, or they're tired, they have long days, they have jobs. I'm retired at this time, I get involved in other things, but my desire to be here and keep running my lips like right now, influences everybody else too. If they something from life out of them, it's like we're down here doing that. And so the respect that we need to always focus on is the same thing of you address the chair, your idea goes into the air in the middle of the room, not at someone. We don't respond to each other. We respond to the chair, which I've done forever, all kinds of different meetings. And I've been in meetings of 6,000 people, and it's severely enforced there that you address the chair. And there's 5,000 other people ready to let you know that you were to address the chair. And so those are simple things, but the other thing that I was looking through these, we seem to have something that I ran across this with the appeals committee, that bias or thoughts of that when we have a limited group to work with. And I do like the idea of a separate committee to look into these issues. And that's where we need these volunteers that are actually happy to show up, that they contribute as a referee to look that stuff over, because when we're asked to judge each other on this panel, well, right there, we start failing again. Now we're back at each other. So we definitely do need an outside source that has authority to take the time to look into the issues and address that, so that, because otherwise, that I've seen it, it's been I've had resentment about certain things. Can it go away? Can I take that, shrug it off, or am I going to be upset? Am I going to be sitting in here across from everybody, being not quite civil, I'm fully capable, but I would rather be the sweet old guy. Sometimes I like to yell, "Get off my lawn," but yeah, I would still like to see a little outreach to another committee. Is that there's a committee that the residents out here need to be involved in, the same thing in that appeals committee, because we put that onus on small group and the board, and then start declaring bias and say, you're stuck. And that does not help us in that fashion. So an appeals committee along with the committee to deal with issues, so that everybody knows something's going to happen in a separate neutral spot by the residents, because the residents are the one, our members, our neighbors have an interest in all of this, and they can't pass it off either. They said, well, the boards over there are tough, you know, let them deal with it, you know, it's like, no, we should expect our members to step up, but we've got to let them know that they're welcome to do so. And give them a safe environment to understand it and correct some of the activities, and that's one that I would like to see happen. It's a little more outreach to the residents. And a large size committee and with a narrowed down scope. We need to not have to try to sort it out with boxing gloves with 5 or 6 of us here.
Thank you, Sam. Good, Rob.
Thank you, Keith. I also like the commitment to civil behavior. I think there's really good tenets in one, and as Joanne was taking us down through them, I was looking at these and thinking, some of these tenets, maybe I haven't done that well. That I could have, that there's room for improvement for me, so I would commit to the civil behavior. If there's additional things that people would like to add, I think that would be great. Ultimately, we're going to spend a year together, and we need to come together as a team. Most teams form and they can't storm and they form. One of the things that I think I want to do is I read a book, I studied a book with a work group that was called Crucial Conversations. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Crucial Conversations, but it provides some help when emotions are high. The stakes in a conversation are really important. And those are crucial conversations and how to stay on task. So maybe might be something to encourage somebody to maybe pull out and read. I think I actually have a few copies of it. Just my 2 cents.
Thank you, Rob. Anyone else? Right, so we're hearing Josh. It sounds like we're gonna want to table this in the future. You want to make a motion, Josh?
Yeah, I would, when's the next board meeting?
December 7th.
Yeah, well, we want to talk about that, or we're gonna bring this up on December, it's probably good, right? We're gonna have our orientation meeting, December 7th.
Right, so I heard back from most directors that December 7th would work. We have a lawyer, the parliamentarian, and our insurance broker lined up to give orientations, so that's about 2.5 hours of content right there. So I don't know that we want to add anything.
That was about thinking, we are gonna be like 2.5 hours for that one, so I was thinking maybe January meeting.
Yeah, that sounds fine to me.
January, yeah.
And really the intent of providing these examples was that people would think on it.
Trying to think, you know, I was gonna want to add a couple things, maybe give you an idea, you know.
Yeah.
And I've always been a big fan of Gandhi, Zarling. And you know, he said something that I used to say to myself when I was parenting a lot, and it was basically to be the change that you want to see in the world. And so if I was doing things that I told my kids not to do, I would need to correct that behavior. And as a parent, that was always my model. And I'm very proud of the fact that my children still have strong relationships with me, even though they're independent adults and everything. Because that doesn't always work out.
Yeah.
A lot of times your kids end up hating you, because you know you try to help them. But to a larger extent, if the board can find it within themselves to adopt these simple tenets of behavior and really live them, and they're hard, even though they're simple statements, because as people, we want things. And our egos get damaged, and that hurts, and it's hard. It's hard not to be on the winning side of it. And you can really leave the table with some bitterness. But if we work hard at understanding that that's how it goes, sometimes you're on the winning side and sometimes you're not on the winning side. I think that the community will see that. We will be the change that we would like to see in our community. And I have to tell you that the difference between the AGM a year ago and the AGM that we just held was very significant to me. I had only been working here a short time. And there we were at the AGM and people were shouting and reading manifestos. You know, shaking their fists in the air, and then we had a very civil AGM a couple of weeks ago. We had many people standing up to share their opinions, but they weren't doing that in an accusatory way. And so I think that if the board can adopt a code of conduct and go with it, model it, that will keep us on the right track. Where we listen to each other, we agree to disagree, and then we take a vote.
We can take a vote, did we get a second on the table?
Well, I haven't made a motion.
Oh, you didn't make
You please, inform me of the date of the January meeting. Do not have that.
It's the second and fourth Thursdays of January.
We'll be back to the regular schedule.
Do I need to pull up the actual date?
Oh, you actually want to dig?
It's late.
There's something about.
The 11th and the 25th.
Remember that?
Oh,
It's like, if you table something formally in Roberts,
yeah,
it's like, it almost dies when it gets tabled. And there's a word, I can bring my Roberts with me, I've been sitting here going through it, but it's something that we basically are just saying, we're gonna take this up, but we're postponing it until that specific date.
defer it then?
Or defer, yeah, just
Yeah.
postpone, you know.
That's all right. I'll follow the story if this comes back to me. I move that the board postpones the discussion of the code of conduct for until the January 11th meeting.
I would second that.
Is it January? Oh, yes, it is, okay. That's what my wrong here. All right. January, all in favor? All right, that's unanimous. All right, with that, the meeting is adjourned at 9:48 p.m.
You have to,
Thank you, everybody. What do I have to do?
you have to motion to adjourn.
You can just say, if the business is conducted, AJ was, we were talking about the sport, because we're a small board. We can just simply say, you know, we concluded our business and we're adjourned.
All right, I'll make a motion.
I'm not motioned out.
I'll third it.
Okay.
Be gone.
Okay. I was on vacation.
I promise I'll get that.
You're not the new,